Hey everyone, James Lynch here doing a quick reaction video to the news that Ilia Topuria and his ex-wife have reached a settlement. And obviously this is notable because Topuria, a lot of people wondering when he's going to defend that lightweight title. And with this out of the way, looks like we're finally heading in that direction with Topuria getting back in action. And maybe the timing of this will work out for him fighting on the White House card. So I'm sure the UFC is seeing this and very happy because obviously Topuria, one of the biggest superstars in the UFC. But let's read the tweet here from Home of Fight. And by the way, if you guys aren't following Home of Fight, you're not doing it right. Home of Fight, great job when it comes to coverage and everything else. I also happen to work for them too, so support would be awesome. But they say breaking, Ilia Topuria and his ex-wife, whose name I'm going to probably butcher, have reached a settlement and the case has been officially dismissed. Both sides agreed to the terms Topuria initially proposed. Topuria is set to resume training at his private home gym in Madrid and is targeting a return at the White House. News to everyone's ears. Can I just point out, though, there was so many people when this whole thing was going on that were wanting him to get stripped, or like they wanted him to, like, you know, vacate the title or whatever. Like, again, this is why we have to wait things out a little bit. Fans, I think, are far too impatient with this stuff. It was something like this. We don't know how little or how, you know, how short or how long it's going to be. And again, it'll be, you know, if the June card comes up for the White House, that'll be in June. Yeah, it'll be close to a year since the last time he fought. Ideally, he was going to fight in January anyways. If we're waiting a couple more months, what's the big deal? Didn't really take up that much time. So yeah, good news, because again, White House is going to need to pull out all the stops when it comes to these fights, right? We've heard some talk about how they're going to try and put as many title fights as they can. The obvious fight here is Justin Gaethje and Ilia Topuria. Obviously, Arman Tsarukyan deserves it more, but that's probably they're going to end up doing, especially with the fact that they're going to want an American on the card, you know, big name American. And so Gaethje Topuria is kind of like the perfect scenario here. So in my opinion, this is great for Ilia Topuria. It's good to see him get back, not waste his prime being on the sidelines. It's good for the UFC because this is a huge fight with Gaethje and Topuria. And yeah, I think it's a win-win. There's also a tweet that came out as well says that Topuria started his preparation for his title defense against Justin Gaethje. The champ is back. There's a video of him doing some exercises and all this stuff. I mean, here's the thing. Like, he's, you know, it's not like because he's going through this whole settlement, he can't train. So, I mean, this isn't really surprising. But, yeah, good to see him back again. It's been about a year since we last saw him fight. I was actually at his last fight. That was at UFC 317 when he knocked out Charles Oliveira. So you'd like to see him be a little bit more active. He did fight twice in 2024, just fighting the one time in 2025. But I think if we're looking at the timeline here, the plan all along was the UFC to have Topuria fight in January against Paddy Pimblett. So now he fights in June. Yeah, it's not great. It's going to be coming up to almost a year since he's defended his title, but the UFC was delaying him anyways. I feel like fans don't look at that side of things enough, where they're like, oh, this guy doesn't fight that often. Well, it's the UFC who's booking the fights, right? And in a lot of cases, it's them planning things out for specific events. So like I said, he would have fought in January anyways. It's February right now. You know, he's back to business. So that's a really good move there for the UFC. If we go look at some of the comments here from people on this, of course, you're going to get some weird people because it's a relationship and fans never look at that stuff like normal people. So there's some people mocking her for saying that she was going to take his money. Glad to see it settled. That's just a reasonable, normal response here. Glad to see it settled. Yes, that's the right response. Let's go. Again, another guy here talking about the money part of it is whatever. What's happening to the kids? I mean, what do you think's happening to the kids? The kids are probably staying with Topuria, or they've come to an agreement. I don't think the guy's going to abandon his kids. Ilia versus McGregor. I mean, that would be an awesome fight, but McGregor's not getting that fight. He's got to just fight, period. Doesn't matter against who. So he's not selling the house. Ilia's the man. Women supposedly wanted... This woman apparently wanted access to him so she could gain monetarily from his success. Moral of the story, beware of women. Sign that prenup. That certainly makes sense. What else do we have here? Just in time for the White House. So yeah, it all kind of worked there. So that's good. I think sort of the next step with this whole situation is Arman's got to get a fight book. Like, what's going on with him? I might have saw somewhere that he's got another wrestling match. I think he does have another wrestling match coming up here. Let me double check this. Arman Tsarukyan wrestling match. I think he has something coming up. Yeah, books his next wrestling match. So that was a week ago. And he's going to be fighting at... Like, get him a UFC fight. This is my thing with him. Of course, he's going to fight someone that he probably shouldn't have to fight, right? Like someone lower down in the rankings. But if you want to get your title shot, you got to appease the UFC, and I think doing these wrestling matches isn't exactly doing that. It's good that he's keeping active, but yeah, so he's fighting on February 28th, so that's coming up soon. But I don't know. I don't know how you guys feel, but I'm kind of like, this is kind of pointless. Like, just, I mean, I understand if you want to keep active. I can understand if he's reaching out to the UFC and saying, book me a fight, and they're not booking him. I can understand him doing this, but I would like Arman to take a UFC fight and get this whole nonsense about him not deserving the title because unprofessionalism and all this stuff. Get that out of the way and let's get this going. At the very least, Arman should be the backup for Gaethje and Topuria. There's no question about it. That's like a no-brainer at this point. Like, there's no one more deserving than Arman Tsarukyan at this point, so he should be the backup for this fight. Now, let's kind of look ahead here because I think the stars are going to align. We're going to get Topuria and we're going to get Gaethje. Despite how good, well, I shouldn't say despite, but even with Gaethje looking as good as he did in his last fight, I'm still picking Topuria. To me, you got two strikers. You got a guy who's a lot younger, who's in the prime of his career in Topuria, who is 29 years old, taking on Gaethje, who's pushing 40 or getting close to 40. I think he's like mid-30s, right? If I'm not mistaken. Gaethje's 37. He'll be 38 in November. So, yeah, I like Topuria here. If I had to guess a line on this fight, Topuria's probably going to be like, he could be like minus 300, I think. As good as Gaethje looked, and I know he sort of turned back the clock, but I think that spoke more to Paddy and just how he wasn't ready for that opportunity. Again, my thing with Gaethje is like, yeah, amazing striker, looks great, but he's taken a ton of damage, and he hasn't had a knockout win in a while. Like, he wasn't able to knock out Paddy Pimblett. You have to go back to the Poirier fight, which was a head kick, but even before that, you have to go back to the Tony Ferguson fight where he got a knockout. He's not knocking guys out like he used to, and that could be because the opposition's better, but it's also because he's a bit older as well. So if he can't knock out Topuria, how's he going to beat Topuria? Topuria's got way more power. He's faster. Topuria should win this fight. In fact, those odds I mentioned could be even higher just because it's Topuria, right? He's looked, I mean, this is a guy that knocked out Volk Holloway Oliveira. Like, you're not going to find a better knockout streak in UFC history almost with that going on. I mean, I'd have to go back and look at certain records, but I mean, that's super impressive. And again, this is great for the UFC because I'll be honest, I've said this before. I think the Paramount era so far, it needs a little bit of work. I thought that 324 card was good. Last week's card, needs a bit of work. This weekend's card we're talking about, you know, it's kind of a run-of-the-mill Apex card. Nothing against Batista and Oliveira. That'll be a fun fight. But I think it's the next 7 events, including this one this Saturday, has no title fights. That's a problem. That's a problem when you sign a new TV deal. We need to have we need to have bigger fights, and this certainly fits the bill. So, yeah, good news for everyone all around. Topuria, Gaethje. Again, that was the big hurdle, was how long was this legal stuff going to take? Topuria not, you know, being able to focus 100% on training. Now he is. Now he's training. Now he's ready to go. Excited for this one. So, yeah, I would assume we're going to get an announcement here pretty soon, I would think, on a Topuria Gaethje fight at the White House. Let's get it booked. Let's stop doing this whole, like, rumors and all that. Let's get it out there and make it happen. Good for Ilia Topuria getting this done. So let me know your thoughts in the comments. What's your reaction to this? What's your early pick on this fight? Follow me on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, @Lynch on Sports. My name is James Lynch. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.